Hi class, welcome to week 6. I'm pretty sure it is now. Hope you all enjoyed 4th of July and had a safe, fun time, not having too much to work on in this class. I do hope you all made some time for your nutrition and disease presentations because it's a pretty big assignment and it's kind of sneaking up on us. I still have 3 students that have not even chosen a topic. I've sent multiple emails, so hopefully those students will get back to me as soon as possible to make sure that they have enough time to complete their assignment. So a couple things I wanted to go over this week. This is another busy week where we have a pretty in-depth weekly discussion in the discussion board. We have a quiz that's due over carbohydrates and lipids. We're going to be learning about proteins and the assigned reading materials. And there's also a case study due, case study 3. So a couple things I wanted to discuss with you guys. So learn the most and also get the best grades when it comes to these upcoming assignments. Number 1, I'm on this page, you guys, when it comes to the case studies. Go ahead and click on that case study folder up, and I've had a rubric available for you all to view. There we go. Down at the very bottom. And somebody told me that they're having trouble with the copy and paste function, opening that up into a new tab. It was saying that it wasn't available. So I went ahead and made a Word version of it as well. So if you're still having trouble opening either one of those, I can add a PDF if that's easier. So if you are struggling with that, please let me know because I can alleviate that for you. Really look over this rubric, understand what I'm looking for. The directions are simply the directions. It's not what you're being graded on. The rubric is what you're being graded on. The directions are more like in the rubric you'll see, is it complete? Did the student do everything that the directions ask them to do? What I'm really looking for in these case studies is I want to see your new knowledge. A lot of you guys have gotten a remark saying good synthesis of new knowledge, or I didn't see the synthesis of new knowledge. I want you guys to learn something, and I want you guys to be able to tell me, to communicate what you learned. This could be anything. It could be whatever tool I'm asking you guys to use. It could be an evaluation of that tool. It could be something that you learned completely new. Maybe you didn't even know that tool existed, and how you think it could help certain people in certain populations. It could be what you learned about yourself doing this, but back it up. You can't just say, well, I learned a lot about, what I'm eating and what I need to be eating. Like, I hope that you did. That's the very bare minimum. But did you learn that I really didn't know there was a difference between simple and complex carbohydrates and how we look at that on a label? Like maybe you were thinking if it says wheat bread at the store and it was brown bread, you thought it was whole wheat bread. And that's, as you guys learned in the carbohydrate chapter, not the case. We need to see 100% wheat as that first ingredient. So I want you guys to show me something that you learned, and even better if you can back it up with an outside good source of evidence. So please look at that case study rubric before you turn in the case study 3, because I saw a pretty big decline in quality between case study 1 and case study 2. So what I'm hoping is that we'll get back and even better than case study 1 and case study 3. Okay. Another thing I wanted to address is this week's discussion. Please try to do it a little earlier. I know it's hard to fit everything in, but doing it, late on Sunday night doesn't give your classmates an opportunity to actually discuss and have academic discourse. And what I really care about is you guys aren't learning as much. So try to do it a little earlier. I did not put kind of a timeline on the initial discussion post, but I think maybe I should have. I've certainly taken a lot of classes where, you have to have it done by Wednesday night or something. So I think that will be a revision in the future, just so that can not be busy work. It can actually be something productive in your learning. But what I wanted you guys to know in this discussion post this week is that I'm really looking for something pretty specific. And what that specifically is how adept are you right now at getting some evidence, pro or against what you're trying to say in your discussion post, that is peer-reviewed, that is a legitimate publication that's coming from a good source. And every study, every study that's ever been done has bias, and it depends on what kind of bias and how much bias, and it gets quite complicated when you're looking at research, and that's not what this class is about. What I want to know is, do you even know how to find the research that people like me or a lot of professors or researchers in the field that we would then tear apart, and kind of try to see what exactly we can pick out of that that's useful for healthcare professionals. But what I want you guys to do is find something that supports or does support what you're saying very clearly. It's been peer reviewed. It's available as a academic or scholarly publication. And I want you to use that study to support what you're saying, in however you want to say it. So I am looking forward to seeing that. I love looking at new research studies and tearing them apart. So that's something I would look forward to doing with your guys' stuff this week. I already mentioned that the quiz that is due on Sunday is over carbohydrates and lipids. Use the text in the PowerPoints that are available on the course content page. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to text me or email me. I know the last quiz, there was people that had some kind of technical issues. Don't wait till the end. Just text me. I'm pretty much always available. I may not be able to get to it right that second, but probably within the next hour or so. I'm pretty flexible with that. We already discussed that. So in learning about proteins, there's a couple things that I wanted you guys to focus on while you're doing your reading. It is really hard sometimes to get a lot of the points across online because you guys are doing so much of the investigation and the reading and the learning on your own, and it's not coming from my mouth or from my perspective. There are a couple things that I want you to pay attention to that I feel are most important out of what you're learning, and certainly will be reflected in discussion posts and also the quizzes. So I want to make sure that you guys have that information from my perspective. So number one, focus on how the proteins are broken down and used by the body. So that's the metabolism of proteins. Pay attention to what happens. One of the biggest things with proteins that you must know is that they are not stored in the body. Whereas lipids and carbohydrates are, proteins are not. They're broken down to their pieces and parts, and they're reassembled in thousands, millions of different ways. If you have an overabundance of protein that you're taking in that your body's not utilizing, then the nitrogen group will be cleaved off, and you'll urinate that out, and that protein will be stored in what's left of that protein will be stored another way. It is not stored as protein. Like your muscles are not a bank of protein storage. So that's something that really people struggle with, I think, but that I want you guys to pay attention to when you're reading about that. Number two, structure equals function. So proteins come in so many different structures, functions, shapes, there's all kinds. There's small ones, there's big ones, there's complicated ones, there's simple ones. And basically, however that protein looks tells you a lot about its function. And proteins that look similar tend to have similar functions, or can trick the body into having similar functions, which is a lot of times how people get allergies to similar protein structures, even if it doesn't make any sense to you. For an example, people who are allergic to bananas tend to also be allergic to latex. And what people don't know, because we don't live in the tropical areas where these things are grown most of the time, is that the latex tree and the banana tree are actually very similar trees. So that's just an example of you really need to pay attention to the structure, to the function, especially when it comes to the human body. Number three that I wanted to go over is, I know I have quite a few fitness buffs in this class, which I love, because I learn a lot from you guys, and I hope you guys learn a lot from me. But this is actually, protein, as you guys know, is a huge issue in the fitness world. There's a lot of myths surrounding it. There's a lot of, what we like to say, bro science, or fitness science when it comes to proteins. So the chapter actually does cover specifically fitness and fitness professionals. So make sure to read those little pop-outs in your book. One is on page 209, so you might be pretty interested in that. There's also a guide to evaluating protein and amino acid supplements. This is, once you understand the metabolism of proteins in the body, you will understand a lot better why, for the majority, for the vast majority of supplements in circumstances that it's not going to be helpful to take more because your body is going to break it down into the amino acids that make up that protein. It's not going to stay as an intact protein. It's just not going to. And something about, I have horrible handwriting. You guys should know that because I'm having a hard time reading my own handwriting. Okay, so there are some reference ranges given in the chapter, and one thing that I want you guys to know about any of those DRIs or those RDAs and the flap of your book cover that we've been using for quite a few things, it is only for healthy adults. I know it has some children ranges in there too, but for the majority of the what we're talking about here, any reference range you're seeing is for a healthy adult. It's not for somebody with diabetes. It's not for somebody with kidney disease or cancer or anything like that. So if you're thinking of people in your mind or even yourself, you know that you have some conditions, they may not be appropriate for you, which is something that a clinician like me, when I'm looking through a medical history, I make a note of, and I have different reference ranges depending on what disease state, and a lot of times people have multiple disease states. So what I want you guys to know is that these are not necessarily set in stone. It's not something that's all the time always accurate. We use a lot of clinical judgment when it comes to the ranges. So, but the book does have some general healthy adult ranges that I want you guys to note too. So, well, okay. I think that video is running about 11 and a half minutes. It's pretty long. So if you're with me up to this point, thank you. And if you guys have any questions, concerns, I'm always available. Please email me, text me. Not real great at answering calls but leave me a message and I will call you back once I know that you're not a robot or something. And I hope you guys have a really great week. Thanks.